Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to class today. Thank you for joining me, whether you are watching live or you are watching the recording. I appreciate you tuning in, taking part in your education, taking advantage of these live streams. Let me just talk about what the purpose of these classes are as we get kicked off here really quickly. The first thing you might be asking is, why YouTube? Why not Zoom or Teams or any of these other things that we've learned about over the past couple of years? And my answer to that is, there's a couple reasons for that. One is that, a recent study that was done said that 80% of people, when they want to learn something for the very first time, they go to YouTube to watch a video on it. Right? So as we are learning things and as we're going through these different classes and things, you're all pretty much familiar with YouTube, I believe. Everybody watches, I feel pretty confident saying that everybody watches YouTube at least sometimes. And, if that study is to be believed, 80% of people go to YouTube first to learn something. So I may as well go to you all kind of where you are in terms of where you go to normally learn stuff, which is YouTube. And the other thing is that it's low pressure. Right? Like in a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting, you worry about your camera being on or not being on. You worry about your microphone being on or not being on. And in this, really, it's just kind of a one-way communication method. Right? Like I have the ability to talk to you all, and you all have the ability to type to me. Right, so if you'd like to participate in the chat, you can ask questions in the chat. That's just fine. I am monitoring it. I am monitoring the chat. So if you have a question along the way, you can ask it in there, and I will see it. It might take a few seconds for me to see it, but I will see it and answer it as we're going through. And this will be available as a recording, right? So live attendance is not required, but it is helpful because you can get your questions answered in real time. And, if you're unable to make a live session one week, or, you have something else going on, or you just weren't able to, be here during this time, or if you're a CCP student and this YouTube channel doesn't work for you on your school Chromebook, then there's going to be a recorded version of this posted in the Blackboard announcements, in the course announcements after this. And I take a copy and I put it on our college video server so you all can have access to that there. So there will be a copy of that for you to watch. And if you're watching the recording at any time, really, you can send me an email, send me a Teams message to ask me a question. You can ask students that have had me before. When I get emails and when I get Teams messages, I'm really good about getting back to them pretty quickly, right? Maybe not right away, but within a reasonable amount of time to where we can get things done. So today, since our Begin Here module is due on Thursday, I'd like to go into the Begin Here module just a little bit more. We'll talk about some of the stuff that you might have saw in your orientation video already. Right, I leave two videos for you to kind of get started on your own here. And that's our welcome video, which is here in the announcements. And the orientation video, which is at the top, or at the first item in our Begin Here module, I should say. So today we're just going to talk about that Begin Here module. Let me switch over to full screen view here so we can get a little better picture of this. See this a little more clear. And I'll click into our Begin Here module so we can start to explain some things some more. Now you can see here at the top in this yellow bar, I am in student preview mode. Student preview is on, so I'm seeing what you would be seeing in the course. Right, so I'm seeing the same things that you are. So we can kind of navigate through this together. But this is that orientation video there I was talking to you about. That's more or less a condensed version of what I'll be talking to you all about today. So you can come right here and watch this condensed version, or you'll be able to watch the longer version in the announcements following the live class. And so through these modules, you have different ways of being able to kind of navigate them, right? If we look here at our table of contents, if it's collapsed for you, you want to click one of these squares here for the condensed view or for the full view. I like to keep mine in the condensed view. But you can either click each of these links here to navigate through, and each of the modules are set up in the same way, right? So you can, like here, we'll just click on module 2 really quickly. We can see that each of the, we have this table of contents here. We can click through each of these links to get to where we need to go, whatever we need to do there. Right, there's also this little arrow here at the top of the table of contents that we can click to go to the next page, or the one here on the right-hand side. And when we go to a page that's other than page 1, we get a back and forward arrow with all of that. So we have options for navigating through these different pages. I like to set my stuff up like this just because it kind of limits what you're looking at any given time. Right, as you can see from the table of contents here, there's a lot of stuff that are in these modules, and if you saw it all on one page at one time, it might get overwhelming. But if we can take and just go through each thing one at a time, read whatever we need to read, watch whatever we need to watch as we're kind of going through the module, then it's going to work out a whole lot better for us. Then we can take each of these modules and kind of treat them like the old saying goes, like eating an elephant. You might be familiar with that. You might have heard that from somebody else at some point in time when they ask the question, how do you eat an elephant? And the response is one bite at a time. So we can kind of take these and look at these things one bite at a time. Get comfortable with the material that's in one of these items, and then move on to the next one by clicking the arrow or clicking the link title here. So if you want to jump to something, like if you've read through a bunch, maybe you go back and read, you want to jump to, say, the quiz or the lab assignment in a future module, you can just click on the link directly and it'll jump you there. If you want to go through item by item here, we can just go through this way. And so this is the very first thing you need to complete right here. This is the enrollment verification activity. And this is to verify your enrollment in the course. And I'm going to walk you through this right now, right? Since this is CTI 110, and this is the first course that many of you might be taking at CCC, you need to know how to do this. Thank you. Yeah, I turned up my mic a little bit. I just got a new computer, and I'm trying to get things dialed in. So I did turn up my mic a little bit from the previous videos and such. I can turn it up just a little bit more if we need it, but that seems to be a pretty good level. Thanks, Josh. Yep. Yeah, back at the, just to kind of give an aside here really quickly before we get back into this. The computer I had previously back in the spring, if anybody's, seen some of the older videos that we've done there, that computer was basically on its last legs. I got this new computer at the end of the summer, set it up right at the start of the semester here, and it is much, much nicer, and it's given me a little bit more freedom to do some better things here. So I'm able to turn my, I'm still trying to dial things in a little bit and get my my settings to where they need to be. But we're getting there. We're getting things back up and going. But our enrollment verification activity. This is big. This is a big and important thing, right? We want to make sure that we do that here. And I'll walk you through it. But this is the way that we verify your enrollment in the course, right? So this is a big important thing. If you select no, or you don't do this by September the 6th, you will be administratively withdrawn from the course, right? So you want to make sure that you do this as soon as possible. We have this little link right here that says click to launch. When you click that, it'll take you to a screen that looks like this. This is just kind of the introductory screen here. So I have these buttons on the right-hand side. I do think that's exactly what I've got. I got a new Lenovo. Yeah, so I'm right there with you. Cool. So from here, we're going to click Begin right here. And this will take us inside of the test. And we can see here it's just a one-question test. We have the instructions back up here at the top again. Down here at the bottom, we have the question. And so this will also help prepare you to take the quizzes and stuff too, because the quizzes are in the same way. Nice. P16 workstation. That's a cool one. I don't even remember what the model of mine is. I was trying to look and see there really quickly, but I'll have to go back and look that one out. But it's a good choice in my opinion. But by selecting yes here, you're just saying, by selecting yes, I verify that I am enrolled as an active participant in the class for the semester. That's the first important point, right? Clicking that tells me, okay, yeah, I'm enrolled and I'm going to be active. I'm going to participate. Everything's going to be good. So you can go ahead and keep me on your roster. And number 2 there, all submissions for assignments and tests will be my own in compliance with the Cleveland Community College policies governing academic integrity. So you're really promising 2 things here. You're promising that you're not going to cheat, and you're promising that you're going to be active in the course and actually do the course. And so if you select no here or you don't do this, it does tell you you will be withdrawn from the course. So you'll want to come in here, you'll want to select yes, and then save and submit here to submit that quiz. And it'll tell you you did it. And from there you can click OK, and it will take you back to the module. Or it'll take you back here, and then OK again will take you back to the module. All right, so real quick, just one question, get you done. Then I can verify your enrollment and everybody's good. The next thing here is this getting started. In this getting started, it shows you a few things about how to use Blackboard, how to find specific pieces of information here that you might need to know. Many of you might need to kind of take time and go through this. Right, like it shows you where to find your syllabus. Right, I got this link over here on the left-hand side. Syllabus is pretty easy to find. Right, you click that link, it jumps you right to my syllabus. Some other things, instructor and campus contacts. We've got these instructor contacts here. That jumps you straight to my contacts. But there are some other campus contacts in here, I think. Or something, yeah. Tutoring and e-support. If you need to get tutoring, this tells you about how to get tutoring here. That can be pretty important to a lot of you this semester. We've got this link over here on the left-hand side that says Get Tutoring. If you click that, that will take you here. We have a link to our ACE Lab. Right, and the ACE Lab is our on-campus tutoring. So you can click this green button here where it says Go to the ACE Lab. And that will take you to the ACE Lab page to where you can sign up for tutoring or get help there. Another option is this tutor.com here. And I think it's pretty cool. This is a service that is outside of Cleveland Community College. It's provided by the Princeton Review. And it allows you to get online help for different subjects. So if I go through here and I find a topic, like here we have CIS, CSC, CTI, DBA, and Web Computer Sciences. That's this course, right? It's CTI 110. Then from this list here, I can select a subject. They call it database systems here. You might want to select one of the other classes based on whatever module we're in. So if we're in the Python module, select the Python item here. If we're in the HTML module, maybe the web markup and scripting, because that's the wrong title for this particular course, right? This is web database, or web programming, web and database foundations. So it was probably too long to put all of that in there, so they just put database systems in there. So just to make sure you get the right tutor who can actually help you out, you might want to select one that has to do with what we're talking about. And then you can just type a question in there, and it will, and select Connect Now, and it will connect you to a virtual tutor. Or you can also schedule a tutoring session, and it tells you, who's available for different subjects. Like, for example, this one. Shows you their picture, who you'll be working with, and allows you to view their profile and schedule a tutoring session with them. So this is outside. Tutor.com is a service outside of Cleveland Community College. And the ACE Lab is what we have here on campus, the Academic Center for Excellence. So those are two things you might need to take advantage of over the course of the semester. It's here for you to use, right? So just keep that in mind. Other things here, course communication. We'll talk more about my course communication here in just a moment. Assignment submissions and rubrics. If you go here, it shows you, how to submit assignments, how to look at rubrics. Every lab assignment in this course has a rubric attached to it. For example, if we look in Module 1 here, and I scroll all the way, I jump to Lab Influential Figures here. You see right here at the top, I have this button that says View Rubric. When I click this button, that shows you the rubric for this assignment. So that gives you the criteria that I'll be looking for when I grade this assignment. So if you want to make sure that you'll make a good grade, start out by looking at this, see everything that you need to make a good grade, and then you can do the assignment and turn it in. And then this shows you here, if you watch these videos, it shows you how to submit an assignment, how to check your grades, a lot of super important stuff that you'll want to know. Also, for a reminder, if you forget what I just told you there about finding that rubric, we have this video here about how to locate a rubric in Blackboard. So there's a ton of information in here for you to use. Some stuff here about how to use the discussion boards. We do use discussion board prompts in this class, so that'll be important to you. Some more information about checking your grades here. If you see something like this with the yellow circle with the exclamation point in it in your My Grades, that means that you turned that in and it's waiting on me to grade it. If you see your grade and this little speech bubble here beside it, that means, of course, 1, I graded it, and 2, I left you something to read as feedback there. So if I left you something to read for feedback, you can just click on that speech bubble and see the feedback. You can also click that View Rubric button there for our projects and such to see your graded rubric, so you can see which parts of the rubric you did well on and maybe which parts of the rubric you could have improved on. So there's a lot of information here for you. And then we have some information here about alternative file formats. I don't really think in this class we have much of this, right? Because this automatically takes files that are uploaded and converts them to different formats in Blackboard automatically. I don't have a lot of files that I upload, so this isn't really a big deal for us. But this is all here in this Getting Started, which is 1, 2, 3 down. Here, page 3 of 15 in our Begin Here module. If you want to look through that, or if you need to go back and reference this, it's there, and it's got some super important information in it. So especially if you're taking your first classes, your first online classes, you'll want to have a quick read through that and take advantage of that. My information. Here's my information. This is where I'm at. You got my email address there. You got my office phone number there. You have my office location there, which is Paxoy 3204A, which is the top floor of Paxoy. If you pull up into campus, the ground floor of Paxoy is the 3100 level. The second floor, which is even with the Hunt building, when you're going in to like the bookstore and the cafeteria and stuff, is the 3200 level of Paxoy. So I'm right inside of there in the 3204 office suite, office A. My office phone number is right there if you need to call me for whatever reason. Although email is a better way to get in touch with me. I tell people all the time, right? I might be in a meeting. I might be teaching class. There might be something going on that prevents me from answering your phone call right away. Right? Like, for example, during one of these live classes, I'm not going to take a phone call. If somebody calls, I'm going to deny it. Right? So, if you can't call me, the better way to get me is email. Email's always on me, right? Like, I have my email on my phone. If I'm if I'm in a meeting or something, I have my email close at hand. I can check my email over the weekend. I can't necessarily check my office phone over the weekend, right? And so if I don't get back in touch with you right away, I will get back with you really quickly. I do my best to try to get back to people as quickly as possible. Sometimes that could be a whole day before I can get back to you, but I do my best to get back to people as quickly as possible. Right? I say within 48 hours here, but it's usually much, much quicker than that. Another good way to get in touch with me is through Microsoft Teams. This video right here walks you through how to use Microsoft Teams. If you've never used it before, it's super easy. Right? And that's another thing that I always have on me. Right? I have the Teams app on my phone, so I can get your Teams messages wherever. So this is another good thing to take advantage of. Right? This became essential a couple years ago when we all went into quarantine and everything went to work from home during the pandemic. But it's still a good thing to have around now, right? This box here in the middle that you'll notice, these are my student hours. And the student hours will be times where I am available to you. I will be sitting at my desk, so if you need to call, I should be available there sitting at my desk to answer your call. Or Teams message or email or whatever you've got. Right, it's also a good time to stop by and see me. If you need to see me for some reason. And we can see that the times there, it's 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Monday through Wednesday. That's right after a seated class that I have. So there's that. Thursday, we can see that it's 10:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And this is actually special. Right, for this I'm doing kind of a study hall. Right, where I will be in Paxoy room 3200, 3200 instead of my office. Right, that's the big classroom in the top floor of Paxoy that I teach my classes in. And I'll be using that as kind of a study hall for all of my classes. So anybody who needs, some individual attention, anybody who has some questions, or even if you just kind of want to come in and work, I will be in there. The lab will be open. I will either be in there or I will be close by. The lab will be open. And you can come in and ask questions and work on things. I'll also be monitoring Teams during that time. So if you want to get individual help through Teams, that's available for you as well. And that's on Thursdays from 10:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. If you can make it, right? If you can't, we can work out some other things. We can make an appointment if we have to. No big deal, right? Up next, we have our syllabus. And so our syllabus is basically our contract. And that's a little copy-paste error. There's obviously no class time with this. I'll need to fix that really quickly because this is an online class. So we'll need to fix that. I'll fix that after the live today. There's no set class time except for this one, 3 o'clock on Tuesday afternoons for this class. And you're probably relieved that it's not Monday through Thursday, 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Just a little copy-paste error there. But our syllabus here is basically our contract. It's a contract between me and you. It sets some expectations for what I expect from you all, and it sets some expectations for what you all can expect from me. Right, so if we read here, we have the course description. This comes from the state of North Carolina. It says this course covers the introduction of the tools and resources available to students in programming, markup language, and services on the internet. Topics include standard markup language, internet services, creating web pages, using search engines, file transfer programs, and database design and creation with DBMS products. And so we do basically everything in there except for one of them in this course, right? And the one that we don't do is talking about using search engines. The sad truth is this course description was written about 17 years ago, right? Like I think it was written back in maybe 2004, 2005. And so things that were important then, like internet, high-speed internet was just getting to be a huge thing. More and more people were getting online. Right, like my parents still had dial-up in 2004, right, when this was written. And a lot of you probably don't even know what that is. So things like using search engines, that's kind of antiquated, right? Like we all know how to use Google to type in a search query and get some results. So we're not going to worry about that. But basically everything else in that description we will touch at some point during this course in some form or fashion. A lot of this is boilerplate. Question? Okay, yeah. Sure. Cool, thanks, Josh. Sounds good to me. But a lot of this here is just boilerplate, right? Like it's in a lot of the syllabi that you'll encounter in classes here, so you can kind of read some of this stuff just at your leisure. I won't read it to you. These student learning outcomes here, these are the things that you should know how to do by the end of the semester. So by the time we're done in December. And these are explain the background supporting the creation and operation of programming and the internet. And that's basically modules 1 and 2. Right? So next week we'll talk about the history of programming, the internet, and computers. The week after that, we'll talk about Module 2, basically how the internet works, just kind of in a nutshell. Because a lot of these things we need to know to kind of support what we'll be doing in future modules. Right? Like, I'm sure my seated class probably thought we'd talk about that and never reference it again. But almost every single day in there, I'm referring back to something we talked about during Module 1 or Module 2 as being important to some new topic that we're covering now. So we'll kind of see how this has all grown from where it started and what it all is built on. And so that's learning outcome A there. B is to apply basic principles of programming logic. That's modules 3, 4, 9, 10, and 11. Right? Basically anything where we're using a programming language. In this class, we introduce 4 different programming languages and 2 other markup languages. Josh asks, so how much Python would we learn, if any at all, this semester? We do learn Python. Module 4, our code module, is done in Python. And in Python and in all of the languages that we're doing during this course, we learn the 5 basics. So that's input, output, math, repetition, and loops. Or repetition and loops are the same thing. Repetition and conditionals. So we will be writing basic Python programs by the end of Module 4. If you're really interested in Python, the CIS 115 course, which we do in the spring, Introduction to Programming and Logic, is an entire course in Python. So we do a little bit of Python in this class, and we do even more of it in future classes. So yeah, we touch on Python. I agree, it is awesome. We touch on Python, we touch on JavaScript, we touch on PHP, and we touch on databases in this particular course. The database language that we use is MySQL. And so I chose the languages that I chose for the entire program. Right, like this course is one course in an entire programming and web development program. I chose the languages that we use in the entire program based on what languages are most widely used in the entire world. Right, and the three most widely used languages in the entire world are Python, Java, and JavaScript. So that's why these are the three languages we get into over the course of our associate's degree. So in this class, we just introduce a little bit of Python, and we just introduce a little bit of JavaScript. And if you stick with me through the degree, you'll learn a whole lot more of both. Java, as the other big language that we teach, we have an entire class on it. That's our CSC 151, our Java programming class, which if you stick in the programming and web development degree, you'll take that in your second spring semester, right before you graduate. So we do a lot of programming, we do a lot of hands-on. That's one of the things that I really like about this, right? It's like I said in my introduction video, right? The reason I like doing this stuff is because I like starting with nothing and then having something that does something cool by the end of it. So we do some programming. We also do some website building with markup tools. That's modules 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's our HTML and CSS. So we'll be writing Python programs. We'll be building websites. We'll be creating databases, which is Student Learning Outcome D, create a simple database table. We're doing that in module 11. All right, so we got a lot to cover this semester, and it's kind of an introduction to all of it. And I think we'll have a good time doing it as well. B, C, and D here, these student learning outcomes have the asterisk beside them because they are state level competencies. So that came down from the state, that these are things that we have to address. So we are. Let's see here. How your grade will be weighted. This is always a fun one. The first one here is quizzes. Every module has a quiz. Quizzes are worth 20%. Labs are worth 20%. Your discussion boards are worth 35%. Your final project is worth 15%. And your final exam is worth 10%. And we'll talk about those briefly in just a minute. We'll talk more about them when we get to roughly halfway through the semester, maybe after maybe around the middle of October. We'll talk more about the final project and final exam. The course schedule here. These are your due dates for the entire semester. I also have that pulled out here as the pacing guide in our Begin Here module. This is when we'll be starting each module and when each module will be due for the entire semester from now to the end of the course. Right, so you can see when the course opened up on the 26th, the Begin Here module started. It's due on September the 1st, which is Thursday. On Friday, we'll start Module 1. We'll have our live class on Module 1 next Tuesday. And then next Thursday, your assignments for Module 1 are due. Right? And so that's kind of the way I structured everything, the way I kind of did. Right? We kind of have our live class set up in the middle. That way you can do like a little pre-reading of the module before our live class, so you can kind of have an understanding of what's going on. We have the live class where, I explain other concepts and do whatever else we need to do. Then you have a couple more days on Thursday. Your assignments are due by midnight on those days. And Thursday is also the day that we have the study hall as well, right? So if you want to come in and work on that or ask questions or whatever you need to do, that time is available. So that's kind of why I structured this the way that I did, right? So we can have kind of a good structure for the course in terms of what we do. And so all my due dates are Thursdays, right? They used to be Sundays way back when. But then I realized, if I give you a due date, you might wait to start on it until, the day of the due date. And when I was getting emails around 6:00 p.m. on a Sunday asking me questions, then I either didn't have enough time, colleague teams messaging me there, I either didn't have enough time to give them a good answer, or they would be up against, a wall trying to, by the time I got back with them and gave them the information they needed, they'd still have, they'd have like maybe 2 hours on a Sunday night to be able to do what they needed to do. So if you need the weekends to work, like if you work during the week or you do something else during the week, and you primarily do your coursework on the weekends, you have the entire weekend to kind of go work on your assignments without having to worry about anything. Or if you wait until Thursday, right, we have that whole study hall thing on Thursday, and we're able to kind of go a little later with, getting information back to you since it's a regular work day, stuff like that. So there's all of that in place that we have for there. So modules typically start on a Friday, end on a Thursday, and all the due dates are right here. One thing that I would suggest would be to either, take a screenshot of the pacing guide, print it out, write it down, so you have another copy of it so you can refer to it quickly. But if you need it quickly, it's always here as the pacing guide in our Begin Here module, or right in the syllabus here if you want to look through the syllabus and grab it. Right. One of the things that I like to do is I like to take the super important things out of here and put them into my Begin Here module, just so you don't have to go searching through this through this multiple page document to try to find them. Everything else here is just kind of some boilerplate, just some things that you can read over. I encourage you to read over like some of the course norms and the communication policies and things as you have time. Right? But that's the syllabus in a nutshell. Some frequently asked questions here. Things like, when are my assignments due? Right? This tells you again about the pacing guide. The pacing guide shows you all your due dates. When will I receive a grade? I try to get things graded within 7 days of the assignment due date. So if you turn something in early, it'll be sitting there for a while, waiting on that due date to come. I know nobody in this class would do it, but, in the past, we've had some issues where somebody might turn something in early, it gets graded early, and then the feedback and the answers get circulated around. Right, and we want to kind of avoid that. We want to make sure everybody's on an even playing field. So we'll wait until the due date before we start grading things. What happens if I miss a deadline? This is a good one. I am pretty strict about my due dates in general. Right? There's a big asterisk beside that. There's a big caveat there. Right? If you miss a deadline, if you ask me for an extension prior to the deadline, I'll give it to you. I'm pretty easy to work with there. Right? I relate it to the real world in that sort of way, right? Like if my boss comes to me, right, and they say, I have a project for you, and I need this project done by this date, and that date comes and that date goes, and that project's not done, and I don't say anything to them, and they don't know why the project's not done, I'm probably going to get in a lot of trouble. Right? I'm probably going to have a bad day. I might lose my job. Who knows? Right? But if I go to them before the project is supposed to be due and say, I've run into this issue and this issue. We've been working hard on this, trying to get it done. But I think we need some more time here. If we could get an extension so that we can complete it properly, that'd be great. Just some communication. Letting me know that you're having issues, letting me know that you have questions, or you're working on things, or maybe life happens and something gets in your way and prevents you from working on things for a day or two and puts you behind. Right? I get it. Just let me know before the due date. We can work with you on deadlines. Otherwise, if I don't hear from you, bagel, goose egg, 0. Even if you turn it in after the due date. Right? So just be proactive, be a good self-advocate, reach out to me, and just ask, right? I'm very easy to work with in that regard. You will need some other accounts for this class on some other websites. You see, I have 3 here. One for Scratch, one for Replit, one for Cloudinary. We'll be using Scratch in Module 3. We'll be using Replit from Modules 4 through 10. And we'll be using Cloudinary in Module 8. These are all completely free accounts. You don't have to pay anything for them. You just want to take a few minutes and register for them. Cloudinary will ask you some extra questions. Just basically put whatever you want to in the answers, right? It's just them collecting data. So anything that they ask you will be fine. If you go ahead and create those now, then you'll have them ready for when we need them in the future. So it'd be a good idea to go ahead and create those this week, so you'll have them when you need them. Even though we won't need them for a couple of weeks. Here's that pacing guide again. Again, these are the due dates. One of the additional things that I can point out here is that the final exam and final project are due by noon on December the 12th. And while most of the due dates I can be pretty easy on, if you contact me ahead of time, that's a hard one. Right? Because grades are due the next morning. So in order for me to have enough time to adequately go through and give everybody a good score on their final project and final exam for all of my classes that I have to cut things off just a little bit early. Right? Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to get good grades done. So it's by noon on that last day. Although, as you see here, you have that entire 10 days there from the 2nd to the 12th to focus on nothing but that final exam and final project. So you got plenty of time to work on it there in that last 10 days. Live online class. Won't get into this because we're doing it now, right? Tuesdays at 3. It also talks about the study hall here, 10:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. on Thursdays, Paxway 3200. If you're interested in the objective mapping here, this just takes the whole course and kind of maps it to those objectives that we were talking about earlier in the syllabus from the state. Right? This shows you kind of where everything matches up. and how it all relates back to those state level objectives. So if that's something you're interested in, you could look at that, right? That's not a huge deal, but it is there for you if you're interested. This is some other kind of policy information here. My communication policy, my netiquette policy, a general assignment rubric, although, you know, any items that have a rubric attached to it, we use the rubric that's attached to it. If it doesn't have a rubric attached to it, I use this one. All of the lab assignments in this course have a rubric attached to them, so we don't really have to worry about this assignment rubric. And so that's just some things that you can read through when you get some time. This is some of that information from the getting started there that we looked at earlier, talking about submitting assignments again. Succeeding in online courses. So this is some information here that tells you about how to make the most of your online courses. And this thing here is okay, but I really like this one. This online readiness quiz that I have linked here. When you click that link, it goes here to the online readiness assessment. And this is actually something that I developed. I made this. Right? And you can actually take this quiz. So let's say Mr. John Smith came here to take this quiz. So it asks you for your first name. It asks you for your last name. It asks you for your student ID number. If you don't have a student ID number or don't remember it, you can leave it blank. That's not a big deal. And then it gives you, go away, it gives you a 20-question quiz here. Pretty quick. Right? You just go through and answer the questions honestly, right? Like this is all the no information's transferred anywhere here. Right? I'm just going to go through and hit some of these randomly, just so we can see what it does. No information's transferred, no information's stored. This is just for you to kind of get some information about some things that you could do to be successful in online classes. So you can just come here, answer these questions honestly. And it gives you some suggestions on some things to do based on how you answered your questions. So once you click submit, it gives you your readiness assessment score. It gives you some information here. It also has a link to an online readiness course here that you can take that I've built. And it gives you some suggestions for things that you can do to help your online readiness. So again, none of this information is transferred anywhere. None of this information is stored anywhere. Once you leave this website, it'll be all gone. Right? So that's just something for you to do that can kind of help you out a little bit, maybe. Some information about discussion boards here. You can read that. And then finally, the last two things here are the introductory discussion board. You can click the launch here, and that'll take you to the discussion board page. I see a lot of you, more than half of you, have already introduced yourselves. So I appreciate those of you who have already introduced yourselves. You just click that here, you create your new thread, and you answer your question. Right? It tells you your question here. And so that's the question. Click to launch, click create thread, type in your answer, submit it. Remember, the information on how-tos is in a video earlier, right? Back in that getting started thing. It's all there. And then the orientation quiz. Just a short quiz. Just kind of making sure you paid attention through all this. You'll want to take that pretty quickly. as well. So I want to talk about the final project briefly. Which is a portfolio. So for each of the big projects that you'll be doing this semester, for the paper that you write in Module 1, for the map that you draw in Module 2, for some of the stuff that you do in Module 4, for the website that you have built by the end of Module 8, and the thing you have built for JavaScript in Module 9, for your PHP site, for your databases, you need to save those projects. Most of them will be in the cloud, so that'll be easy. The ones that aren't in the cloud, you need to make sure that you save on your computer somewhere, because you're going to need those to fill out this final project, which is your portfolio of things that you've done over the semester. And in creating this portfolio, you will also create another website for it to be on, which will require you to use the things that we've learned throughout the semester. This video kind of walks you through some instructions here. We'll talk more about it in the middle of the semester, right? Maybe in the middle of October. We'll get into this final project just a little bit more, and we can talk about that. So I've got one more thing, and then I'll be done for today. It's been long enough. I want to point this out to you all. So when you log in to Blackboard, on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see this picture here for the Online Learning Essentials course. This is separate from everything else that we've talked about so far. This is not mandatory. This is optional. If these are your first online courses here at Cleveland Community College, you'll want to come here, click this, follow these instructions here for this course. It tells you more about how to use Blackboard. It tells you more about digital literacy skills, some more online readiness things. Right, and by the end of it, you can actually earn a certificate. If you complete everything, there's a little certificate of completion here. So you actually get a certificate there that you can put your name on. But again, this Online Learning Essentials is optional. However, if you're new to Blackboard, new to online classes, I encourage you to do it. And so really that's all that I have for you today, and really that's enough. So if anybody who's with me in the chat right now has any questions, if you'll go ahead and enter those while I'm kind of wrapping up here. If you're watching the recording later on and you have a question, feel free to email me or send me a Teams message, and we'll have a look at that. I will hang out in the chat for just a couple minutes after we end here and answer any questions anybody may have. But that is all that I have for you for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.